this is an ankle sequence setup. So I've got myself a chair or something to sit on. It doesn't have to be a chair, but you will want something that is firm. So don't use a bed or a sofa or something like that. You need something that's going to offer you some support and rigidity when you sit on it. And you're also going to need your slant board. And initially you're going to have the slant board facing down away from the chair. You might not have a slant board, and there are ways of doing this in a DIY way. So you can have a couple of yoga blocks sort of underneath the thing that you've got to slant something down on. And you can also have like a wooden chopping board or a bookshelf or something like that facing away. But having a slant board for this is definitely going to be the best thing to use, just because it's going to be solid and it's going to keep itself in place. If you can't set yourself up with a DIY version of a slant board like so, then you don't actually need anything underneath your feet at all. So you'll see what will happen as we get going and why the slant board is there. But actually you can more or less do sort of like 80% of this exercise if you don't have a slant board at all. So you'll still get something from it regardless of whether or not you've got one of these. But you can buy one of these off Amazon for really not very much money at all. And if you are handy, I'm sure it would be extremely easy to make one of these as well. You're also going to need a yoga block, and you're also going to need a yoga strap for ankle sequence. So I'm just going to keep those by my side so that you can see what I'm doing. And I'm sitting myself on my chair. Can't see my face, that doesn't really matter. It's the least important bit of this exercise. Now, when you put your feet on your slant board, what you are looking for is having your body in a position where your hips are slightly lower than your knees. So this chair is slightly lower than my knees. I would not want it to be that my hips were higher, angling down towards the knee. So make sure that the thing that you're sat on is a little bit lower than your knees when they are on the slant board like so. You are keeping your ankles directly underneath the knees. So if I had my feet here, that would be too close. And if I had my feet here, that would be too far away. The ankles are directly underneath the knees like this. And there are not very many ergoski exercises where this is the command in the upper body, shall we say, but you are actually going to be relaxed through your pelvis so that it slightly tilts backwards. So the pelvis slightly tilts backwards into flexion rather than you being tilted forwards into extension, which is generally speaking what we are working on most of the time. The pelvis stays relaxed, the spine slightly curves, the shoulders stay over the pelvis. So just because you are somewhat relaxed through your pelvis and spine doesn't mean that your upper body is just completely hunching forward like this, nor does it mean that you're completely taking the mick and sort of putting all of your weight into the chair like so. The shoulders stay over the pelvis. It's just that light relaxation through the pelvis and the spine. And the reason that we're doing that is we're really trying to force the work in this exercise through the feet, the calves, the thighs and the hips, rather than it being that you're kind of working your back muscles at the same time. So we're trying to isolate the work from the pelvis downwards and stay relaxed in our pelvis. We're going to start off with the block. And as I said, if you've got a slant board, you're going to have it facing away to start with. But if you don't have a slant board, just put your feet on the floor and do what you can. You'll see that you will be able to do most of this regardless of whether or not you have a slant board. You're going to put the block this way around, in between your knees. You're going to put the backs of your hands on your thighs. And remember, you're staying relaxed through your pelvis and spine, but not so relaxed that you're collapsing backwards or collapsing forwards. We're making sure that we've got the middle of our toes, so second and third toes, are in alignment with our ankles, which are in alignment with our knees, which are in alignment with our hips. So really watch and make sure that your toes are not splaying wider than your ankles. You're looking for the second and third toes as being your alignment marker with the ankle. So I'm showing you this from the front. I'm only going to show you this once. The principle applies across all of the positions that you're going to do in ankle sequence. We are making sure that the middle of the second and the third toes is in alignment with the ankles, in alignment with the knees, in alignment with the hips. Be super careful that you are not starting off with your feet in any way splayed. More rarely, but it might happen, some of you might want to start with your feet pigeon-toed, we are making sure that we have our feet truly parallel, and you measure parallel from the middle of those second and the third toes. As we move through the movement, and as you go up, can you see here that the middle of my toes, my midfoot, my ankle and my knee and my hip are still all in alignment? This is true plantar flexion of the foot. If I hurry, if I don't think about it, and if I try and go higher than my body can cope with, what my body will want me to do is this, and it will want to buckle the ankles out to the side and lift the big toe joints up off the floor. So if you're going too fast and you're not thinking about it, you'll be doing this, and this is not plantar flexion. You're actually supinating your foot and sort of inverting your foot. So you've got to make sure that we're creating this forward propulsion through the foot, really focusing on the big toe joint. It will feel completely different when you're keeping the feet straight like this versus buckling them out to the side in plantar flexion. And then conversely, when people think they are dorsiflexing, which is what I'm doing here, and can you see that the second and third toes are in alignment with the midfoot, the ankle, the toes and the hips, keeping the feet more or less straight as I bring them up and down, what most of you will want to do is take the toes out to the side like this. This is extreme, but it's very subtle sometimes, so you might just do that a tiny bit and you're still compensating when you do that. You're not then dorsiflexing your feet, you're sort of pronating and everting your feet. So make sure that the feet move straight up and down in both planes of movement, or you won't get the change that we want to happen through the calves and ultimately the hips. Initially, we're going to do 20 squeeze, hold and releases in against the block here. So we're going to wake up, hopefully, our inner thighs and our hip flexors as well. So we're going to squeeze, hold, release. 1, 2, 3. Notice how my pelvis is not moving backwards and forwards. My upper body is not tensing up or moving backwards and forwards either. Upper body stays relaxed from the pelvis up, and I'm just squeezing in with my knees, holding a contraction on the block and relaxing. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And when you've done your 20 squeezes in with the block, you're going to maintain the contraction against your knees into the block. So you're going to feel how that kind of firms up the muscles again within the inner thighs. And what we're going to be doing is a little bit like our hook line rocking chair that we've done before. We're going to push our kind of ankles up and keep our toes grounded. So we're pivoting around the big toe joint here. We're not going up onto our toes like a ballerina on point shoes. The toes stay long and relaxed as much as they can, and you're pivoting around the big toe joints. So we're teaching your body how to learn this kind of big toe off movement that we should have as we walk. And as you do this movement, you're trying to feel like you are generating the movement from the hip area. So you're imagining the muscles at the hip and at the thigh area sort of helping lift up those feet, like so. Noticing that my pelvis is staying relaxed and my upper body is staying relaxed. I'm not like swinging backwards and forwards with the upper body. It stays relaxed and gentle. Imagining these hip muscles, lifting my toes up. And you almost want to imagine that you've got like eggs underneath the arches of your feet or underneath your heels. You're being very precise, gentle and light when it comes to the lifting up and down of the feet. And as much as possible, and I will show you this from another angle, you are trying to keep the middle of your toes, the middle of your foot and the middle of your ankles all in alignment. So it's the same principle that we've spoken about before with hook lying rocking chair and 3 position toe raises. As you lift your ankles up, you might notice that rather than moving your ankle directly forward over the big toe, that you actually splay the ankles out wide so that they go wider than the toes, and then the big toe joint will probably lift off the floor. You are really focusing on driving into the big toe joint here, keeping the whole foot from toe to ankle to knee to hip all in a straight line as much as possible. It may mean you can't go so high, but you are doing it functionally and therefore it is beneficial. Upper body relaxes, there's no movement in the pelvis, belly is relaxed. Imagining the hips are driving the movement, we're going to do 20 lifts up into plantar flexion like so. Off we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 and 20. Okay, so that's stage 1. We're going to do exactly the same thing, but this time we're going to be lifting our feet up off the floor. So again, it's like that hook line rocking chair that we've done before. As we lift our toes up, or our foot up off the floor like so, in dorsiflexion, we are making sure that we're not swinging our toes and our midfoot wider than the ankles, okay? So as you lift your feet up, many of you are going to be tempted to just simply take the toes out to the side. That is not what we're doing. We're taking our toes back in alignment with our knees. That is dorsiflexion. So keeping the work on the block, upper body stays relaxed, pelvis tilts backwards, upper body is just not doing anything, it's not moving forwards and backwards. We're using the muscles around the hips and thighs and the feet and calves to create this movement. Off we go, nice and slowly and mindfully, trying to keep the feet in a straight line as we lift them up. 1, placing the toes all the way back down in between each rep. So remembering the toes, not just the big toe joints. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. So we've done our block and we've been moving our feet in plantar flexion, and now we're going to get our strap and we're going to do exactly the same thing, but we're going to have the strap around the outside of our thighs rather than the block on the inside of the thighs. So the block is waking up those inside thighs and hips, the strap is going to wake up the kind of lateral hips, hamstrings, glutes sort of area. All the same principles apply. I'm not going to go through them all a million times. Hopefully you're starting to get it now. Relaxed in upper body. As we squeeze out against the strap, we're making sure that our knees stay at hip width apart. So set that loop so that it's not too wide or too narrow. Making sure that the ankles are directly underneath the knees. And making sure that your feet are straight on the board and that the toes are not splaying wider than the ankles and the knees. We start off by doing those 20 squeezes outwards against the strap. So off we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And on that 20th, we're just going to make sure that our knees haven't crept wider than our hips, staying relaxed in our pelvis, maintaining that squeeze out against the strap. We're going to keep all of our toes flat and relaxed on the floor, especially that big toe, and we are pivoting around the big toe joints, the ball of the foot, not the toes themselves, so they stay grounded. And off we go, trying to move slowly and mindfully, so we are controlling the direction of the ankles relative to the toes so that they do not splay out to the side. Off we go. 1, remembering The hips are driving the movement, and you're imagining those eggshells underneath them to make you move really slowly and carefully. 4, 5, 6, 7. Notice how my upper body is not rocking backwards and forwards. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. So now we're lifting the toes back towards us in dorsiflexion, trying to keep them in a straight line with the ankle, making sure that the toes do not splay out to the side. Upper body stays relaxed, maintaining this work against the strap so that you feel the outside of your thighs waking up a little bit. Off we go, 20 of these. 1. Toes placed down in between each rep. Don't hurry the toes. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Cool. So now what we're going to do is repeat those exercises, but we're going to swap the slant board round. So your foot is going to be more, is starting off in a position of dorsiflexion here. So when you've got your feet on the slant board like this angle here is dorsiflexion. If you don't have the slant board, you clearly can't swap the slant board round, but you can do this twice for good measure. So even if you had your feet on the floor, it's still going to be good for you to do those 2 exercises again, unless they hurt you, of course, which you don't want to do. Block this way around, in between your knees. We're going to do those 20 squeezes inwards, really looking down at our feet, asking ourselves, is our second and third toes in alignment with our ankles, in alignment with our knees, hips, pelvis is relaxed, upper body is relaxed, but it's not so relaxed that the shoulders either move backwards or really far forwards of the pelvic girdle. So, 20 squeezes inwards, off we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So off we go. We're going to lift up into our toes like we've done before, nice and gently from the hips, imagining the eggs underneath so that we move nice and lightly and mindfully, keeping the feet straight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. Placing the feet back down, we're now going to dorsiflex the feet back towards us, trying to keep the toes level with the ankles. You will not feel like you can go very far here, so don't worry too much. You might not feel like you get much leverage at all. Super important not to use the upper body in this one. So the harder that this one is, you'll probably find that you're trying to grit and bare your teeth to kind of create the movement from the upper body. It's a foot exercise, it's a hip exercise, it's not an upper body exercise, so don't let it get involved. Off we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 and 20. Relax them all down. The block goes on the side. Same thing again, last one in the sequence. We've got the strap, sliding it around our thighs, making sure that the knees are not wider than the hips, staying relaxed in that upper body. Feet are in alignment with the hips and with the knees. We're going to squeeze out 20 times against the strap to start with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 and 20. Maintaining the squeeze out against the strap. The big toe joints stay down throughout all of this exercise, moving the ankles up directly over the toes, not splaying them out to the side. Off we go, using our hips, nice and gentle and careful with our feet. Mindful movement, not fast, jerky movement. Off we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, make sure I bring that back, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, placing the feet down, maintaining the squeeze out against the strap. We're going to bring our feet up into dorsiflexion, remembering we're probably not going to get very far here because our feet are already in dorsiflexion. Really trying hard not to spin the toes out and spin the ankles in. You're trying to draw the middle of the toes at the front towards the ankle. Off we go. Upper body stays relaxed and does not move. 1, 2, 3. Placing all the toes down in between. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 and 20. And that is ankle sequence.